You have been ignoring this question again and again. Please explain about the Confucian bureaucracy in China and who was Confucius. Okay, first of all, Ritaji, I did not mean to offend or upset you. Look, I can only take about 20 or so questions in each episode, right? But if your question is good, I will eventually notice it and and pick it up, which is why I've done it today. Um, so, who was, first of all, let's deal with Confucius. Who was this person, Confucius? So he was a Chinese philosopher, thinker, teacher, whatever you want to call it. He was born in the Shandong province. Where is the Shandong province? It's south of Beijing and east of Korea. If you want to, I don't think we need to look at the map for this. You can look it up yourself. Shandong province is southish of Beijing and westward of Korea, of the Korean peninsula. That's Shandong province. So he was born in the Shandong province, probably the 5th or 6th century BC, around that time. And his ideas, his teachings became the core of traditional Chinese culture, Chinese philosophy, Chinese government, right? Um, and his teachings were both moral and political. Okay, and his philosophy was all about cultivating virtuous people, cultivating orderly relationships, and these ideas are very well aligned with having an orderly empire, right? So his ideas, they influenced China, they continue to influence China, and they also influenced various parts of Eastern Asia as well, right? So what was his philosophy about? He's a philosopher mainly. His philosophy is about how to become a good person and how to form harmonious communities. So how do you do these things? You cultivate humanity, you cultivate benevolence, you practice right behavior, you practice propriety, you become a junzi, an exemplary person, right? And you do this by stressing, by focusing on learning. With learning comes knowledge and wisdom. So you focus on learning. You your society, the ideal Confucian society is a hierarchical society, but not a rigidly hierarchical and oppressive society. It's a hierarchical society that is characterized by or moderated by benevolence. So, a benevolently hierarchical society with social harmony. Okay. Um, and Confucius said that you have to follow the proper way in personal life and political life. So that is the Confucian philosophy. Kind of, it's pretty. I mean, it's not something you can explain in 5 minutes, but that's kind of the gist of it. So this philosophy, Confucian philosophy, the Confucian thought, whatever you want to call it, it became, you could say, a durable moral system for family life in China, for education in China, and even politics in China. And eventually, the Chinese spread these ideas to Korea, to Japan, even Vietnam, because Vietnam is a highly Sinicized society because of various Chinese invasions and so on, right? Um, so, what are the things that Confucius has thought? Because we want to talk about bureaucracy, so let's understand what are the things that Confucian thought and philosophy influenced. It influenced family life, family ethics. You need to be, filial piety, respect for elders, um, obligations to your kin, to your family, and kin and family are spread across society because we're all cousins and aunts and uncles of each other, you know, across generations. So you have obligations to society, to your kin networks, etc. So that's how it influenced family life. It also influenced education because it's all about, study. You've got to study. You got to cultivate the moral self cultivation. Obviously that happens through study. And the junzi, the ideal person, becomes the model for not only students but also for officials in government. And it influenced politics very strongly. You must have, I mean, if you are a long term viewer of this channel, you would have heard me speaking about the mandate of heaven. That is a central concept in the Chinese imperial system. As long as the emperor has the mandate of heaven, he rules. The moment he loses the mandate of heaven, the emperor falls, the dynasty falls, and there is a period of chaos and civil war that typically lasts a century or so before the next dynastic cycle starts. The mandate of heaven. What is this concept? This concept comes from Confucian philosophy. So Confucius, his view was that rulers should govern by virtue, and they should rule by setting the right example. And Confucius said that the legitimacy of a ruler is interconnected or linked with their moral conduct. Okay, so as long as you are morally upright and you are doing the right thing and serving society and controlling society and being like a father figure to society, as long as you do all these things, you have the mandate of heaven. And when you lose the mandate of heaven, that's when your dynasty falls and so on, right? So that's all about Confucianism, about its role in society, its role in education, its role in family life, and its role in politics. Now, what does it have to do with the bureaucracy, right? Confucian bureaucracy. What is that? So, if you go back to the first millennium AD, you have the Tang dynasty, which was very strongly influenced by India. You also have the Song dynasty that comes probably later, right? So, from the Tang period onwards, the Chinese civil service examination system, it became based on Confucian literature, Confucian classics. So the Confucian classics became the main content of the civil services education examination system. It became the main content, and it became the ideological basis of the entire bureaucratic examination system. So if you wanted to become a bureaucrat, which would elevate you to very high and very powerful status eventually, if you're good in society, if you wanted to become a bureaucrat, a powerful person in society, in the empire, then you had to succeed in this exam. And to succeed in the exam, you had to read, you had to understand the world through the lens of Confucian concepts, Confucian philosophy. You were supposed to value, you were supposed to embody Confucian virtues and ideals, like loyalty, like valuing the hierarchical order of society, valuing Confucian norms, understanding what the mandate of heaven is, and so on. And if you were good at this, if you could crack the exam, then you could become a high ranking official eventually, if you did the right thing. So that was how you entered the bureaucracy. So this was an officially sanctioned form of Confucianism. There are various forms of Confucianism, but this was the officially sanctioned form of Confucianism. And the objective was to legitimize the rule of the empire, of the emperor, and to shape the values and conduct and behavior and comportment of the bureaucrats, of the officials who would do the job of ruling the empire in the name of the emperor. So so this connected administrative careers to Confucian philosophy, Confucian ethics, Confucian morals, Confucian values, and Confucian political ideas and ideals, right? So that is the deal. So that's and this system has been going on since at least the Tang dynasty, and it went on all the way until the fall of China to the Westerners during the Opium Wars. So historically, imperial governance was based on Confucian values, Confucian principles, but it also incorporated legalism, legalistic techniques, centralized control, harsh law. So it was a mixture of both. Now, what is legalism? Since we are discussing Confucian bureaucracy, let's discuss legalism. Confucianism and legalism are essentially polar opposites. These are two, you could say, ideologies or philosophical worldviews. Confucianism views human nature in a certain way, legalism views human nature in the exact opposite way. Okay? So legalism differs from Confucianism like a 180-degree turnaround about how it views human nature, how it views how rulers should govern, and and what is it that holds an empire together. Confucianism, like I said, emphasizes virtue. It emphasizes moral education. And legalism is all about strict laws, centralized power, and harsh punishments. Okay, so it's very different. And Chinese governments, empires, they have historically mixed the two things. Employed aspects of Confucianism and employed aspects of legalism. And you see that even today. So Legalism assumes that people are fundamentally self-interested and short-sighted, and Confucianism assumes that humans are capable of goodness, and they have good morals inside them that need to be cultivated through Confucian education, etc. And legalism says that people respond only to punishment, not to moral persuasion or education or whatever. And legalism is about reforms. Okay, legalism is willing to break with tradition to strengthen the state. For example, if you want to increase agricultural output, you can break with tradition. If you want to make turn monks into workers, you can do that if you're a legalist. But if you're a Confucian, you can't do that, right? And if you want to take the workers, take the peasants whose job is to, you know, take care of agriculture. If you want to take them and put them into the military to build military power, then it's fine with legalism, but it's not fine with Confucianism. In Confucianism, the emperor is a father figure, right? And he has the mandate of heaven if he cares for the people and does all the good moral things. But in legalism, the ruler is absolutely sovereign, and he doesn't have any need to be a father figure. He is supposed to use law, administrative techniques, and punishments to keep the ministers, the bureaucrats, and the subjects, the peasantry, in line. So that's the difference between Confucianism and legalism. See, Confucianism is humane, it is virtue centered, and it is not about coercion. It's about persuasion more than coercion. And legalism is all about coercion, about regarding coercion as indispensable to ruling a powerful and orderly nation. So if you look at the Chinese Communist Party today, if you look at Mr. Xi Jinping, he does try to portray himself as a father figure, doesn't he? Right? He does portray himself as kind of a grandfatherly figure sometimes, or a fatherly figure sometimes. But the Chinese Communist Party, if you look at what its conduct has been, its actions have been, especially in the 20th century, you don't see too much Confucianism there. It's all legalism, right? But today, it's trying to adopt a softer approach. If you look at the Chinese Communist Party's approach towards Tibet, you don't see Confucianism there, right? But today it's trying to at least portray itself as being more humane and so on and so forth, which and in doing so, it's merging Confucianism with its basic legalistic framework. And Confucianism, once again, before I end this, there is no God in Confucianism. Yeah, Confucianism is not about it's you could say an atheistic ideology or philosophy. There is no place for God in Confucianism. And the Tang dynasty adopted Confucianism as the state bureaucratic thing, as the basis of the bureaucratic entrance examinations. But the Tang dynasty was very strongly influenced by Indian Buddhist and Hindu ideas, and that tells you that Chinese society and all societies and civilizations are super complex. But anyway, I hope that gives you some kind of understanding of what Confucianism is, of who Confucius was, and why Confucianism is still relevant in Chinese society today, and how the Chinese Communist Party employs both Confucianism and legalism to rule the country.